and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Time yet again for the anniversary of the old blog and the text reviews I used to do there. We honor it by looking at a terrible series that has had considerably more talented people than its creator work on it over the years. Youngblood. Having moved on from the first volume, we're still playing catch-up on the other books Youngblood has done over the years. Patreon-sponsored reviews plus a holiday episode jumped us into the future a bit, but now we're on Youngblood's Strikefile, which spotlighted certain individual members. Last time, it was Chapel in all his utter despicableness as a character, aka what the hell were you thinking, Rob, by trying to have a victim of genetically modified AIDS used by the government to keep him in line want to commit suicide so he can become a frickin' hellspawn, and Die Hard, robot, kinda sorta, and owner of the crotch that he used to attack people with that used to grace the theme song before I swapped it out because of my growing discomfort of feeding toxicity in fandom by using personalized insults towards creators in said theme song. Rest assured, though, that I am still going to call out Rob Liefeld's craptacular work as an artist and writer within the show itself. Never fear, the garbage is here. But yeah, we learned some more about Die Hard's time in the 40s fighting Nazis, and while Rob may not have drawn it very well, you can't really go that wrong with fighting Nazis. So let's dig into Youngblood Strikefile number 2 and see if it gets any better, any worse, or just remains the same awful work we've come to expect.
Atop the fourth wall, where bad comics burn. Linkara's gonna teach you all a lesson you won't learn. What's with these awkward subjects? What's all this art so rubbish? To anyone who's had a bad comic published, it could be your turn. Linkara, he is a man, punch, sporadically a grouch. Linkara, he has his own spaceship, but he's always on his couch. A universe in flux, Linkara. This comic sucks, Linkara.
The cover is... oh dear God! Where the hell to start with this one? Well, I guess I can give it one bit of praise. It's certainly eye-catching, and apparently face-catching as well, since Chapel has seemingly ripped off a dude's face!
Ooh, faced!
I think they might be an alien given the red skin color and some kind of weird head bumps, but with the heavy inks, I can't tell if that's head bumps or just a weird presentation of the dude's hair. But yeah, thanks for the unnecessarily gruesome start to this with face removal.
His face.
I can't even really tell if he did it or not. The weapon he's holding is just a solid black, and his fist is just kind of drawn over it. No way of indicating if he's actually holding a weapon, or if he's just putting his hand there for some kind of forced perspective shot. Oh, and then of course there's his Hunchback of Notre Dame style physique. Although that would have been a very different story if Quasimodo had just bench-pressed Frollo from the start. So last issue, I gave praise to Jay Lee's artwork on only one point, making the skull on Chapel's face more intimidating, with the heavy inks giving the illusion of sharp teeth on the top and bottom of his makeup. Unfortunately, this cover seems to indicate that, no, he actually believes Chapel is sporting legitimate fangs, since several of them are piercing past the inking and standing out as teeth. Oh geez, his body is so buff it's tearing itself apart. You can see he's bleeding from the armpit. When last we left off with Youngblood Strikefile, we saw a brief flashback to Chapel, Al Simmons before he was Spawn, and an angel in earthly form named Duke take on what I presume was some terrorist cell called Cybernet. Although with that name, I would have guessed them to be a dating app for Cybermen.
There is logic in what he says.
We open with Chapel having sex with some woman. We'll ignore the AIDS revelation we got for now and just go with the one bit of characterization we had about him before that. Him being a womanizer. Sometimes, even I can't believe how lucky I am to be a part of the whole Youngblood thing. Turns out he got in thanks to a raffle. For all the garbage we've got to put up with, there's just as many times when all of it just seems like one big party. Unfortunately, with Youngblood, it's more like the 4 a.m. after the party where a bunch of assholes refuse to just go home so we can sleep already. Wine, women, more women. Don't tell him it's actually all wine. He's just so drunk he thinks that some of the curvier wine bottles are women. I've already complained a lot about this art, but this first panel is kinda weird. I know those lines above her eye and mouth are supposed to just be hair, but with how thin they get, they really look more like cracks in porcelain or something. Anyway, hope you enjoyed having a few shapes that sort of resemble the background, because we ain't gonna have very many more of those for a bit. But yeah, in the skylight above his apartment, or whatever the hell this is, a group of Mr. Freezes in front of the Dark Knight Returns lightning strike decide to bust in. Of course, their actual appearance is bizarre. I do love how this one dude at the bottom of the splash page just has guns attached to his wrists like that. There isn't even a trigger for them or anything. It's like an overcomplicated bracelet. Takes about a second for me to figure out these suckers are state-of-the-art cybernet war dogs. Oh, so the gun bracelets are actually their dog tags. They immediately open fire and murder the woman who is with Chapel. I might as well be moving in slow motion as I watch the girl get hit hard 3 times. Any questions either of us might have had about this being more than a one-night stand are rendered moot as she collapses in my arms. For the record, not really. She's actually an anti-vaxxer. Needless to say, what happens next isn't pretty. As opposed to what happened before this, which has just been a frickin' beauty pageant. And I guess the implication with this panel is that he just threw them out of his apartment and out the window. When all's said and done, my loft's wearing a hole the size of the Holland Tunnel, and I'm no closer to understanding what just happened here than I was when all this started. Except now all my sheets have blood on them, and that never washes out properly. I don't know what the hell it is about these guys that makes them instantly recognizable as Cybernet, but Chapel does indeed know that's who they're from, and wonders why their leader, Geiger, would pick now to attack him, after they hadn't seen each other for like 5 years. However, it seems Geiger has left behind a souvenir to explain himself. A little cyborg head? A robot head? Whatever, it talks to him. Greetings, old friend. As you may have guessed by now, the primary motivation behind this attack was to gain your attention. You've got a lot of unearned confidence in Chapel's intelligence there, Geiger. He says to meet him at the docks tomorrow at 10 o'clock, and then the head blows itself up. By the time 10 o'clock finally rolls around, I've done a lot of thinking. Unfortunately, that distracted me from remembering to put on a shirt. Or to call Youngblood and let them know something's up. Hell, Geiger didn't even say to come alone. Chapel's reasoning is that Geiger could have killed him with that attack, but didn't, meaning he can only assume that he wants something from him. Yes, the attack that caused a lot of damage to my home and resulted in a person dying was just to get my attention. That's clearly what's happening, and not they botched the assassination attempt and are now trying to lead me into a trap. But no, of course it is, because really it was just that they needed an action scene, since the idea of characters just talking to each other is so boring to creators in the 90s that they fall asleep halfway through writing it. But yeah, Chapel goes to the docks and I guess decides to pose really awkwardly on them. What the hell is he doing standing like that? Hell, with the way he's lifting his leg like that, it kind of seems like one leg is longer than the other. Geiger teleports in. As always, he makes as spectacular an entrance as possible. And as always, I'm equally unimpressed. Dude, of course he's not impressed! If he was impressed, he'd have to show like awe and wonder and stuff. And that's stupid! He needs to be badass and stoic all the time. Be so stone-faced that even the slightest hint of emotion would make the whole thing crumble. Geiger appears and he's a dude with very pointy golden armor, massive neck muscles, and flanked by buff zombies. You know, for all the talk of cybernet and them being cyborgs and stuff, man, like none of Geiger's forces resemble cyborgs at all. I'm sure they are, but it feels like they added the cyber stuff after they had already designed the characters because it was popular. Geiger tells Chapel that Jason Wynn, the guy he used to work for back in the day and met with briefly, and consequently, according to Youngblood number 10, is responsible for giving Chapel AIDS, and apparently this is the story of how that happened, hired him to kill Chapel. Geiger, however tempted by this offer, recognizes that Wynn has grown very powerful and doesn't want to help him, instead wanting Chapel to kill Wynn. I think it's a fairly simple deal. You kill Wynn, thereby saving me the trouble of doing so myself, and I let you live. For now. Chapel's response is to shoot Geiger's arm off. I can't say that was unexpected. Still gotta hand it to you, Chapel! And there goes the other arm. Yeah, I kinda walked into that one. What's the matter? Have you gone soft in your old age? Killing innocent people used to be no problem for you. The next generation of heroes, everyone! Now you're telling me you won't kill a man easily as evil as myself? What happened, Chapel? Did all the killing finally get to you? It got kind of boring after a while. Why do you think I'm just shooting off limbs now instead of killing you? Chapel just shoots him dead. Not sure what happened to the other two guys who were with him. But of course, Geiger reveals that this wasn't him anyway. The bloody pile of death keeps on talking, revealing that he wasn't foolish enough to come in person. So I guess he just cloned a dude and spoke to him through a speaker or something? Who knows and who cares? The caption says that this Chapel storyline will end next issue. Half tempted to just review it now and get it over with, but we still have the other story in this one via the flip book. I don't have a physical copy of this one. Just imagine I'm flipping it over. The cover for the flip book is arguably better, but only by so much. It's a close-up shot of a split screen. On one side, Die Hard, on the other, Super Patriot, whom we'll talk about in a bit. Mind you, just glancing at this, you'd never know that, because Liefeld's art just blends into itself so much, and the color schemes are similar enough that it's easy to think this is just one dude if you're not familiar with any of these characters. Although I've read a bunch of Youngblood stuff, and I'm still not familiar with a bunch of their characters, so I gave praise last time for Liefeld's art and story because while it was still bad, there was a germ of a good idea for something we'd be interested in reading. A Golden Age hero having been kidnapped by an evil company to be used as a weapon, and the more colorful art was at least more fun to look at than the Chapel stuff. And hey, it got a +10 modifier for featuring Nazis getting the crap beaten out of them. Let's see if Liefeld can actually hold that lead, or if it's going to devolve into more garbage. We open with Die Hard no longer attacking with his crotch, but storming in face first into goons. Die Hard personal log entry. Time, 1:55 a.m. Place, the Cyber Data Corp. Philadelphia branch. Had to take a second job as a game dev, doing crunch hours. Even I, a superpowered cyborg, recognize that crunch is bad and overtaxing. Situation, extreme. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sure he meant situation extreme! Cyberdata is the corporation responsible for the kidnapping of Super Patriot, and at least Liefeld knows that cybernetic things should, look at least somewhat robotic, so Die Hard is flying through some robots, or at least armored people, while searching for him. Mind you, Liefeld's laziness as an artist is also slipping through, since we've got a splash page followed by a 2-page spread to minimize the amount of work he has to do. But once again, I have to give him credit over Jay Lee, since he actually drew backgrounds in his story. They're admittedly not that great, but at least I understand that characters are fighting in an actual location, and not some netherworld devoid of anything but a solid color or gradient. My prime objective here is to locate and release Super Patriot. Secondary objective, find the break room. It was someone's birthday today and there's still cake there. The mission is classified under covert operations, so naturally he's in bright primary colors and just storming his way through, as opposed to trying to be stealthy about it. I don't know, maybe it was originally stealth and things have just gone to hell, but somehow, given the track record of Youngblood and their creator, I have a difficult time believing that sneaking around like Solid Snake was ever on the agenda. And then yet another 2-page spread where I think it's supposed to be him punching several robots at once, but really just looks like an odd pileup where these bulky robots are somehow this close together. Oh, and the robots are called SHOC, S-H-O-C troops. Because poor literacy is cool. The only shock I get from these guys is how pathetic they are. I mean, with all the money this place makes, you'd think they could spend a little more on security. Dude, it's another great thing about Youngblood. They never show any kind of fear or concern about their opponents. Sure, some could say that means these fights lack tension, but who cares? I just want to see Die Hard kicking robots again. And again! And again! And again! And again! And again! And sometimes Shaft does it too! And again! That Captain America ripoff shield that Die Hard has sometimes has been phasing in and out of reality during all this, now prominently returning to his arm. And man, does Liefeld draw weird arms sometimes, especially with Die Hard. It's like he forgets that the arm is made of two parts, so whenever he outstretches it, it always looks like a really cheap action figure without an elbow joint. Speaking of people with no elbow joints, we get a 2-page spread that needs to be turned on its side with Super Patriot's appearance. And his arms have apparently been replaced with pipe organs. I will give credit to Liefeld that he uses the spread to indicate how big Super Patriot is supposed to be now. Less credit that apparently he decided, you know what this guy needs? A big star on his crotch, which functions well as a target bullseye.
There, sure glad I don't look stupid in this.
Before Die Hard can talk, Super Patriot uses his pipe arms as cannons, firing on him. He unloads the firepower equivalent to that of 10 tanks. I'm reminded once again to thank the boys back at the lab for this wonderful shield they provided me with. This thing saved my hide more times than I care to remember. It's made of shakium. Shakium, yeah, that's what it's made of. Original metal, do not steal. The barrage of fire stops. Patriot needs some downtime to reload. How? Where's he getting the bullets from? He doesn't even have hands to put bullets in those things. Does he just scoop them out from a big bowl or something? I hit him with everything my genetically engineered frame can muster. Man-machine versus machine-man. May the one with the best batteries win. Ugh, I don't want to see Liefeld's version of the Energizer Bunny. Die Hard tries to talk to him and get Super Patriot to stand down, but he's not listening. Looks to me like the only memories he has now are the ones cyber data feeds him. And unfortunately, it's just the time that Die Hard told him that he had a stupid haircut, repeated over and over and over. Uh-oh, sucker's been reloading this whole time. How? Are the bullets stored in his ass? Like, the best guess is that those things shoot lasers and not projectiles. Except if that's the case, it's not reloading, it's recharging. And yeah, of course he could be recharging during that time because it'd probably be a passive action. So why would you be surprised by it? Anyway, Die Hard tosses his shield at him. Ironic, given Liefeld's later attempt at making a Captain America ripoff was legally barred from throwing his shield thanks to a lawsuit, and knocks him back. But he just presses on and they fight for a few pages. And so our comic ends with Super Patriot somehow lifting a boulder over his head that he prepares to drop down on Die Hard. I'm guessing he just shoved the poles into a rock and lifted it like a fork. He's gonna have to shake his arms to drop it. This comic sucks. Yeah, the goodwill Liefeld engendered from the first issue is completely used up. The Die Hard story is just one big fight scene. Hell, the Chapel one is only slightly less of a fight scene, because the talk with Geiger doesn't have him directly fighting Chapel, just standing there monologuing while he gets dismembered. The artwork on both is bad, but the Jay Lee one is worse just because it's so ugly to look at. No backgrounds, bodies even more distended than on the Liefeld ones, and the coloring bleak and dull. There's not really any talking from Die Hard story, just thought captions, which makes it slightly less annoying to read, but still pretty mediocre. Honestly, I bet after we finish the next one, we'll find that both stories could have easily fit into a single comic instead of stretching it out over 3 issues. And at least our misery would have been done and over with sooner. Next time, back to Patreon-sponsored reviews, and back to anime reviews, and back to Pokemon reviews, with another 2 episodes where Ash takes on another Unova gym leader.
I'm sitting on my couch reviewing comics.
What happened, Chapel? Did all the killing finally get to you? What happened to you, Chapel? You used to be cool. I was never cool, and you know it! Hello, my friends. Please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell for notifications on new video releases. If you'd like to support future videos, you can check out my Patreon or purchase a t-shirt via Teespring or Shark Robot. Thanks for watching!